have a motion before me, moved by Councillor Hergert, seconded by Councillor Hutchinson. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby returns to open session at 7:00 p.m. Calling the question. All those in favour? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you. I do want to say that only those items that we identified to a speaking camera were the items that were discussed. All right, that moves us along to item 5, matters arising from closed session. There is no matters arising. We are now on item 6, comment period. Are there any comments? Okay, I will ask it in one moment again. All right, very good. All right. Mr. Miller, do you have a comment at all?
Not great. No,
okay. Thank you. Item 7 is public meetings. There are none on this agenda. Item 8, Part 1, consent agenda. I do have a motion before me, moved by Councillor Shea, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Be it resolved that items 1A to, be it resolved that items A1 to A3 inclusive contained in Part 1 consent agenda be adopted as printed, and further that the authorization be given for the action to be taken as may be necessary to give effect to the recommendations contained therein. Questions? Calling the question. Oh, thank you. Councillor Townsend. Thank you, Clerk.
Page 12, sorry. Page 12 under the notice of motion, there is a motion where my name is spelled incorrectly.
Thank you. We will get that corrected.
Thank you.
Appreciate that fine-tuning on our minutes. Well, it is a record of our actions, so it's important. Anything further? Calling the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Clerk Turner, do you have an update on the item here?
Yes, just for the benefit of council and the viewing audience, under section D1 of the agenda, being future committee meetings, just note that there were 2 that weren't included that you may wish to know about. There is a West Grey Public Library Board meeting on June 19th at 7:30 p.m. at the Durham Public Library branch. And on Thursday, June 20th at 9 a.m., there's a West Grey Police Service Building Committee meeting here at the West Grey office. And then also the West Grey Parks, Recreation and Culture Local Committee, the Ayton Committee. It was noted as their meeting being on June 26th. However, that has been canceled and it's been rescheduled to July 2nd at 7:30 p.m. at the Ayton Arena.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Part 2. Oh, thank you, Councillor Hutchinson.
I believe if you mentioned future committee meetings, I believe the West Grey Durham Recreation Committee meeting was also cancelled on the 2nd, or the 5th, sorry, the 5th. Okay. I don't believe it happened either.
Clerk Turner.
Yeah, the next council meeting is July 2nd, so if it was going to be on the 5th, it would have been noted in the next council agenda.
June 5th.
Oh, sorry, June 5th. Sorry.
June 5th.
My apologies.
Yeah, I believe it was cancelled.
Good. Thank you for that clarification. Appreciate it. Okay. We are now moving on to Part 2, regular agenda. Item 9, communications from Mayor and members of Council. I'll start and then I will look to Councillor Hutchinson. I brought greetings to the 50th anniversary of the Saugeen Cedar Family Campground. It's a very significant accomplishment for them. I attended the Abbeyfield Durham annual barbecue. I also brought greetings to the Grey County Economic Development Tour participants. I was very pleased to do that at the starting point of the tour, which was Durham Furniture. I also brought greetings at Foodland Durham for their grand reopening. Very significant events in West Grey. I was also a judge, as you know, at Launchpad. There was a competition for an app, and there were a number, there were 3 teams, and a young lady from Sacred Heart School, a West Grey resident, won the local pitch competition for her app. This was also part of the IMB Technovation Challenge for Girls. This app was called, it's a Japanese name, so I may need some pronunciation correction. It's Kyo, which means in Japanese connection. And the idea behind her app was to link youth with local mental health resources, as well as youth groups and outreach programs. I was incredibly impressed. All of the judges and the audience was very impressed, not only with this young student, but also the other participants from JDSS and the Walkerton District Community School. I also brought greetings at Moloch, North America, that was celebrating their 20th anniversary here in North America, very significant celebration. I attended and also worked at the Durham Herb Fair, and I also went to Trixie's for lunch and had veggie sushi that was made by two Normby students that won the Iron Chef competition, so it was really important to show support there. Lots going on. There's always a lot going on in West Grey, for sure. Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, well, my schedule wasn't quite as busy as that, but I would like to say congratulations to the Raptors for winning the NBA title. Yes. I think that's important. And I did make it out to a fishing derby at Ground Effects with my grandson, so they tend to have the odd fishing derby there in at the Ground Effects, and that was sponsored by the Hanover Lions Club, I believe. And I'd just like to mention that I believe it's this Saturday is Touch the Truck at the Durham Arena, where they're having a number of the fire department and police department, a number of local companies will provide vehicles, and the kids get to climb all over them. And it's usually a very fun morning. I don't know if they're doing the bike rodeo this year or not, but the last year they had a bike rodeo there also put on by the police, West Grey Police. So it's usually a good morning. So that's this Saturday.
Great. Thank you for that update. Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. Well, I was away on a wee holiday, and I'd like to thank both Mayor Robinson and Councillor Shea for helping me keep some of the balls in the air in my absence. I appreciate your support. I did attend the Abbey Field Durham Senior Housing Open House on Saturday and had a tour with Rhonda, and it was really great to see the facility that we have here in Durham. And just to mention, this Friday is National Indigenous Peoples Day, and West Grey Library is celebrating with a drop-in program from 1 till 4 on Friday with Diane Owen and friends. And then the following Friday is Wing Night in Elmwood. So anytime there's a long weekend, Elmwood has wings on Friday nights at the Pavilion. Thank you.
Thank you for always reminding us of that, and they're delicious wings for sure. Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Thank you. Good evening. What did I start with? I attended the Normanby Optimist Club Award Banquet, where they recognized several young local students in the community that committed or have performed above and beyond volunteer work in the community. So that was it was good to see. I think we made it 2024 somewhere in there. You were there. About 24 of them, somewhere in there. I attended the Abbey Field Open House with the rest of council there as well. I did go on Saturday night, went to the Ayton bandstand. They had Lulu's Roadhouse Band in, trying to raise money for the community. I believe we're going towards the playground again, and I think they were not as successful as they wanted, but I would think that they made a few dollars. Last night we went out and we helped the Busy Bees in Ayton put out some flowers and spreading some mulch in the community. Other than that, I've been spending a lot of time just out meeting people, meeting and greeting in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Shea.
Thank you. I too attended a number of community festivities that have been mentioned over the past couple of weeks. Apart from that, I happened upon the Ayton firefighters doing some training in Durham in the house beside the car wash, a house that's apparently owned by Don Tremble and is slated to be demolished. So it's been turned over to all the fire forces for training, and they've been filling it up with smoke and going in there the last few weeks. Last night was Ayton. Tonight is Newstat. Durham will be there tomorrow. So they're doing it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday until the house is torn down. So it's quite a good show if you want to go watch that. I also attended at the Newstat Rec Committee meeting last week, I think, and we had a couple of, well, we had one unpleasant-ish incident reported with a volunteer saying that they had difficulty dealing with an inebriated patron. Tom was there from the what's his title?
Yes.
But he used a different title there. He said he's got another title when he attends at those meetings. So he said he was going to connect with the police to provide some training to the volunteers. There was a follow-up the following week with another incident of the volunteer feeling ill-equipped to deal with rowdy patrons. And again, that's been followed up with to get more training specifically for the on-hand staff at the facility. So hopefully this will be nipped in the bud, but I just thought it was significant enough to report.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Councillor Hergert. Oh, excuse me. Councillor Shea, were you done? I had an indication you might want to speak again. Okay. Councillor Hergert then.
Yes, so for future committee meetings, we also have an airport commission meeting this week, Wednesday, tomorrow morning, it's 2:00 p.m. Thank you for all those that were involved in the COPA for Kids. There were 71 potential aviators that day that flew with experienced pilots. In particular, thank you to Marilyn Dickinson and Jack and Beth Zystra and all of the COPA Flight 54 for sharing their planes and their skills. We do have pilot instruction and sightseeing tours at the airport, and the Hanover Sights and Sounds will also be offering helicopter rides. So you can go onto their website if you like and look up some more information. That would be July 27th at the Saugeen Municipal Airport. Thanks to the Ayton Area Recreation Committee for putting on the Ayton Bandstand event Saturday night. They had some new volunteer shirts and they looked great. As always, we appreciate our volunteers and those that enhance rural life. Last night we did attend, do the Busy Bees in Ayton. We were zipping around the library and we had a lot of great helpers. We even enlisted the help of a little Alex W. So thank you very much to him. He stuck to the project till the very end. This Thursday we have the Youth Professional Networking at Ground Effects, which would be here in West Grey. That is Thursday evening. That would be put on by Grey County, and it's a kind of an under 40 get-together of professionals in West Grey and all of Grey County, just having some form of camaraderie and socialization. We also have Durham Art Gallery has out their rock, paper, scissors summer camps, and I know West Grey is putting on several summer camps as well.
Thank you. Councillor Tansen.
Thank you. Some of the things have already been mentioned. I'll just elaborate on a couple. The Abbey Field one, I also went on a tour, and I thought that was really interesting. Got to be introduced to Mary, who was waiting patiently while they fixed the computer. She's 102, by the way, and still able to manage a computer, and yet there are some people that are probably in their 40s, 50s that can't do it yet. So anyway, we'll stop at 50s. The other thing they're doing is they're doing a golf tournament on September 7th. And so we were talking about that. I've seen a draft of the posters, et cetera, given some feedback because they really need to be successful in some of their fundraising. And so I'd like to see that be really, really successful. If anyone's interested in going, please do so. And in fact, there's one on Saturday from the Durham Healthcare Foundation as well that's going on. So I don't know if they sold out yet, but they were pretty close last time I talked to them. Usually very popular event. I also attended the 50th anniversary of the Saugeen Cedars, and it was amazing to see the energy with those people, and they're actually going to become off the grid 100%, and I think they flipped a switch the day before we were there, and it's really amazing to see what they've done. It also gives them the opportunity, by going off the grid, to expand their camp across the river when it's low enough, I should mention. They do have restriction of getting hydro through there, so this is actually helping their business, and that's really important. Some other things coming up, Catchy Ace is back. It started last week, and that's really good. And go early, participate in the 50-50 draw. I think occasionally they end up throwing food out or drink out, so you never know what you're going to get. The other thing is the music in Vickers Park is on again, and it's again this Sunday. And I think it's going to be the last one in that location if we're still sticking to the same schedule, and then it moves to the credit union, right? July 1st celebration, with the Lions and whatnot is coming up. And also the street festival. There's lots of planning going on for that. And that's on the actual 13th, the last day of the Art Fest. So lots again going on that people would want to go and enjoy. So it'll be a busy summer.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. All right, we're moving on to item 10, which is delegations. There are none on this agenda. Item 11, business arising from the previous meeting, an indication that there is none. Staff reports. There's only one staff report on this agenda. We're on item 12, and the staff report is from our Director of Finance and Treasurer. The first item being approval of voucher number 12-2019. Members of council, are there any questions? And then, Director Mighton, you have...
I do have a correction just to the description, not to the amount contained in the vouchers, but on page 34, the invoice to Joe Kerr Limited for gravel, maintenance gravel, should say 20,000 tons, not 10,000 tons. The dollar value of the invoice is correct. It was just a keying error, so that has been updated. So.
Thank you. And while you have the mic, would you mind just identifying the voucher amount is rather large. I know it's a few times a year, but would you mind explaining that?
Yeah, so contained in this voucher is our remittances to, our quarterly remittance to the school boards and Grey County for their share of the levies. So, yeah, that's a large portion of the increase there.
Thank you for that. Members of council, questions on any of the items listed? All right. I do have a motion before me that is moved by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Shea. Be it resolved that the Director of Finance Treasurer be authorized to pay the accounts presented as voucher number 12-2019 in the amount of $3,212,060.08 of the Municipality of West Grey. Questions? Calling the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. There is another item, Director Mighton. This one is dealing with Knox United Church Caribbean Fest, request for financial support. Do you have any comment?
Yeah, I don't have any further information on it, but they were looking to see if we wanted to be involved or make a contribution to a new event that they're trying to get off the ground in conjunction with their 160th anniversary.
Okay, you have correspondence attached to this agenda. Any questions, or how do you wish to deal with this? Councillor Herger.
So there was no exact amount that was requested. I would hope that as a matter of tourism, education, culture, some fashion, we could make a donation. The hope is to extend this out to the broader United Church and invite everyone from the community to learn about another culture. So I think it could be used as a learning opportunity as well as a tourism event. I'd like us to support it in some fashion. If $200 would be an acceptable amount, I think that would be a generous first year, try and get something off the ground and see how we can support next year.
Okay, I'd look to you as that indication of motion.
Yes.
Are there any comments or questions at this point? What I'd like to say is, Director Mighton, do we have some money in our budget, miscellaneous budget, for this type of purpose?
Yeah, you do have a bit in the miscellaneous grants to organizations. There's a small amount, so if it was $200, that would be enough in there to cover that.
Okay. I believe Councillor Townsend had a question.
I was going to say, if that's a motion, I would support that.
Okay, then I've got that. Councillor Shea, did you have your hand up? You're okay, then Councillor Hutchinson, please.
So my understanding, it is the 160th anniversary for the Knox United Church this year, and this festival is to go along with that. It sounds like they're planning something on activities on a monthly basis. So I'm not so sure if it would be an annual thing. It sounds like it might be just this year, and then not necessarily looking for contribution another year. So,
Okay.
So I would support that.
Okay. Anything further? I do have a motion. Councillor Shea first.
But to that point, maybe when we, assuming this is successful, we should communicate to them that we do have a process for applying for grants to organizations in the future.
Mm-hmm. I think that's important as we, if this goes through, that be communicated as well. Very good. Anything further before I read the motion? All right. Moved by Councillor Hergert, seconded by Councillor Townsend. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby agrees to contribute $200 to the Knox United Church, Durham, for their Caribbean Fest event to be held on Saturday, August 17, 2019, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Knox United Church property, with funding taken from grants to organizations. Councillor Hutchinson.
I don't believe it was in there, but can we make a mention that this is in celebration of their 160th anniversary? Because otherwise, I think we could have other churches coming to us and saying, well, we're going to do something, we'd like to do a contribution also. So I think it's a special event in terms of the
Yes.
160th, and I think we need to recognize that.
I think that's a very good point, and I see that
I
both the
acknowledge
mover
that.
and,
That's a friendly amendment.
yeah,
Perfect.
the mover and the seconder are both in favor of that. Thank you very much. The clerk is making that addition. I don't think I need to read it again. Calling the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. All right, we're moving on to asset management policy. Director Mighton.
Yes, so this is a draft of, we need a strategic asset management policy in place by July 1st. So with our calendar catching ahead of us, this is a draft so that we can, looking for your support to pass it at the meeting tonight. We can always make amendments to it and change it, as we were just in the process of starting the Amp It Up program. So we're just working through a self-assessment survey, and that is through the MFOA association. So we're working at that. That'll be about, I think it was 40 hours of consultant help that will help us move along in the asset management process. So we're just starting that as we change and finalize our strategic plan and our development charges study, which we'll be undergoing. Those may dictate changes within this policy, but we can always go back and amend it. But at least by supporting this draft, it would at least get us we'd at least meet the regulation for the July 1st deadline.
Yes, and we always want to stay in compliance, so very well done. Members of council, any questions with regard to this? Councillor Hergert.
So I actually was just reading this Municipal World, June 2019, and there's an entire article which I would draw everyone's attention to about strategic asset management policies. And to that end, the article was quite lengthy. The very end, once endorsed by council, the policy will be difficult to modify. So seeing this as a first draft and having lots of time for input, I would like to see us reach out to stakeholders. I understand some of these plans, asset management plan, community improvement plan, community well-being and safety plan, all of those will feed into this. But I think this is worth, yes, the timeline is urgent, but we need to make sure, here, let's go to accounting for tangible capital assets, the policy number T0119 under statutory requirements, talks about prioritizing. The municipality shall clearly identify infrastructure priorities which will drive investment decisions. I'm not sure we have that in place yet. So I know some of these items will be coming, but we need to identify when they will be done. Is it first quarter, second quarter? We talk about a multi-year budget process. I think we need to lay these plans out, especially their timeliness, to incorporate into this capital asset plan. And I do appreciate Carrie's work on the AMP program, and hopefully that will help us streamline our asset management part. But this is a strategic asset management policy that is to endure for the next 5 years. And like I already mentioned, the quote here at the very end of this Municipal World article says, once endorsed by council, the policy will be difficult to modify. So I look for more information, and definitely the outreach to stakeholders that was identified here in this article as just being the most important part of this plan.
Director Mighton, would you be able to respond? I'm hearing a little inconsistency in it.
And in this draft, it was kept a little broader without getting into those specifics, because you're still working on your strategic plan. So those dates weren't put in, or those directions, so it was left a little more broad in this draft. Once we finalize a plan, we can amend this. It's just as, simple as, okay, you've changed direction and made this priorities. We can go back and amend it, and then that is the future guiding principle. It's your policy to amend, and And as your priorities change, we're also going to be doing the community improvement plans, so we're just at the point where we're developing all of that. So, but yet they want us to have something in place by July 1st. So I think our first stab at this is very broad, open-ended, to try to say that, yes, we're going to try to incorporate all these things, but we're not sure in specifics, laying it out how we're going to do it. As you get all those little pieces in place, then we can revisit and amend it as we go along, or as in one fell swoop. But it is your plan and policy. You can change directions anytime you want with it.
Very good. Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, and there was just in the wording that I had picked up on page 52, it talks about existing plans and policies. And so it says the municipality has developed and adopted a strategic plan, an official plan, an emergency management plan, a multi-year accessibility plan, a community improvement plan, and an asset management plan. Well, our community improvement plan is the county's producing that, and we're going to jump off theirs. And then the asset management plan, we haven't got that yet, right? We're in the process of making that. So I just wondered if we should say.
We have we have an existing asset management plan. We've had to have that for 5 years.
Yes.
What the next sort of we're now required to build on it and become more specific in some of the factors in it. But we have an asset management plan. We just need to work at updating it and making it more current. The next deadline in the guidelines, or in the regulation 588-17, is that July 1st, 2021, we have to have the core assets, which is your roads, bridges, water, sewer, and we have to have those service levels redefined, and that. So that's sort of that next piece that we'll be building in with the asset management plan. But we do have a plan that meets the existing regulations before this 588-17 deadlines.
So the only one that we don't really have, that we're saying we do have, is the community improvement plan. So we maybe want to say something, like change the wording or something on that. I don't know, or we just go forward. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pleased to say that at Grey County, we did address the community improvement plan, CIP is what we're used to calling it, at the last county council committee of the whole. And I was the mover of that, but it was that committee of the whole. It did get recommended for approval to the next county council meeting. We do have draft copies of it, but it is pending Grey County approval at the next meeting.
But my understanding with that is that the municipalities then adapt the template, there's templates with it, that we adapt that for our own purposes. So that would be what we'll do next, right? So
absolutely.
Right. Okay.
Yes, and it's a very exciting initiative. But Madam CIO, would you like to provide a little bit of info on that?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Economic Development Advisory Committee met just every day's running into each other recently, and we discussed in a little bit of detail about the CIP, and we were waiting for, and in fact, hot off the heels of the meeting adjourning, an email comes out saying that it was passed in principle. So we will be able to take sections of that and customize it to West Grey's needs, and that is something that the committee is going to take ownership of. So we're just steps away from presenting that to council for their consideration. Part of that, we do have to realize there will be some financial implications, and that will come through the budget process, but at least to have the theory of what our priorities are for improving the community from an economic development perspective, we'll be able to work on that. So we're close.
Yeah, a lot of exciting things happening. It's a very good time to be in council. Councillor Hutchinson, are you done your questions? Councillor Townsend, then Councillor Hergert.
So do we have a 3-year accessibility plan as well? I'll start there.
Staff, could you respond? I know we've got a plan. Can you just give the time frame on that, please?
Currently we're under the Grey County accessibility plan.
Okay, and that is a 3-year to be technically...
Through you, Madam Mayor,
Yes,
I know
please.
it's a multi-year, I don't know the exact digit, but we have, through our budget process, we identified and council approved a new hire, and that's to get our own accessibility advisory committee started as well. So we would move toward our own plan. I know a few other municipalities that are involved with the county model and also have their own local. They've taken sections of the county plan as well and customized it. So it's not reinventing anything, it's just putting your own stamp on it.
Right, so I
So
guess
we're covered under the county, though.
yeah, so my comment is, should the policy indicate that we're moving to our own and that there isn't one in place, but it's being developed? Like, I'm not sure how you deal with that because of the stage we're at.
If I may, Madam Mayor, to say that we've developed and adopted, our connection with the county qualifies us, and we're in compliance. If we want to do more, that's on us, but it doesn't have to be captured in this policy at this point. I think it's really important if we look at page 4, where it's very clear in this draft that we are expecting, and council should also be expecting, updates will be coming, and they will be coming frequently because there are so many projects that are works in progress right now. So this policy is very much, this is one of the living document policies. There's not a whole lot of those around, thankfully, but this one needs to be a living document because of the work that is captured in here. So all those moving parts will come to council on a regular basis as we get completed projects.
Okay, I guess I was thinking the plans may change, but will the policy really change? And if the plans change, I'm okay, with that. If we're actually going to be revising the policy, that's a little more concerning. Like, there's a reference to, again, on page 4, there's a reference on municipality's official plan. There's also a reference to something called the region. And my concern there, I don't know what region means. Should that be county? Like, I realize it may be a slight difference, but unfortunately, I like detail.
Yes,
to be right.
that.
And so I look at those and I say maybe there's some little tweaking and those kind of things that we need to make sure, because it's not just the municipality's official plan, it's also the county's, right? So is that acceptable, or do we say it is where applicable? I'm not sure how you deal with that, right, having just seen it for the first time. And then the reference to stakeholders is, should we be consulting on the policy before we actually do the plans? Because if we put a policy in place, that might restrict what you can do with the plan, and where do we want the input? Anyway, I throw those out as comments for consideration to the table, so.
Thank you. I think our Clerk Turner had a comment.
Yeah, just to clarify, there is a West Grey multi-year accessibility plan. It was done 4 to 5 years ago. It does need to be revisited and likely updated, but there was one done.
Okay, Councillor Hergert, then Councillor Shea.
So in that section of existing plans and policies, could we shape that up so that we know that it's a county plan or it is a plan to be reviewed, like maybe later this year? Especially the accessibility one. We've talked at our table that we want to do something different. So we shouldn't, 3 years from now, we shouldn't still be referencing what we're currently doing, right? That we would be looking at it to update. And the community improvement plan would be an anticipated community improvement plan, right? The asset management plan is in place, but it needs to be updated, right? And it would be updated for the 2021 deadline, right? So just that we have a plan in place to get to all of these documents, I think is very important, especially they're outlined here, but it doesn't necessarily say if it's the county's priority and we're just towing along, or if it is our document to be updated. Under scope and responsibility, I note that the Director of Treasury or Finance will assume the lead role and champion this project throughout. Condition, next page talks about works together with other department heads and assists in this task through the utilization of condition assessment information and service level requirements. That sounds like our basic budgeting. But it sounds like Carrie would be taking the role on new tenders for any capital projects. Is that an accurate discussion?
I would say no. Director Maiton, could you just provide some more
Yeah,
information?
no, capital tendering and budgeting still remains with department heads. It's just the asset management when we need to meet these targets. Okay, somebody's got to spearhead it, make sure, okay, we need to update condition assessments. Let's get that done. But it's not saying that annual budgeting that I'm doing every tender. Not at all. That's not the intention. It doesn't mention budget per se here. This is just an overarching sort of guiding policy. And with our staff changes coming up, trying to have consistency with somewhere to keep it going in light of retirements and things. It's just sort of, you have to have somebody keep the ship moving, but it's a group effort and keeping department heads involved in it to help with all the workload of the buildings and facilities and infrastructure that they manage every day.
Very good. Further?
Yes, so under general policy, it talks about prioritized spending needs, and then the next set of words, I'm not exactly sure how they fit together. I think it's just wordsmithing that needs to happen, across the gap identified, maybe just a few changes in the word there. But the important part on that one was I wanted to make sure prioritized spending needs, gaps identified in the plan, and recent developments for the year to be budgeted for. I also want some discussion about a contingency in each project. And I'm not sure if this is the best place to put it, but no.
I would say this isn't, like, as far as your budget process, if you want contingencies in certain capital projects, I think that's part of your budget discussions, but not part of this asset management policy. I think that's getting too detailed in in how you're treating budget to this. But the budget plan and that will, the financial strategy part, which is part of the asset management plan, will build into it. But those types of items would be outside of this strategic asset management policy. You're limiting how you're operating under here. It's supposed to be a guiding policy, not a operational how-to policy.
Fair enough. Further, Councillor Hergert.
Well, I guess I am still looking for a bit more detail. To Councillor Townsend mentioned the word region. What is region? If we could shape these, I think I'd like to see us take it up at a committee of the whole meeting. In principle, I think it's a great start. I think there was a toolkit online, but we still aren't getting to the stakeholder engagement part. And if this article says anything, it's make sure you engage with your internal, external stakeholders, and that way we have better buy-in on it. So I'm looking for this to be, in principle, we could approve it, strategic asset management policy, but that we would have time for the stakeholders to engage and provide input, valuable input that we need to shape the policy.
Councillor Shea.
I think there's a lot of good points made. I think this policy as written is fine, and I'd be prepared to support it exactly as it is. I think what we're seeing here is a lot of passion about our various plans, at the various stages that they're at. We all want to see our asset management plan. We want to see how that ties in with our bridges study. We want to have our community consultations about our bridges study. We want to see the economic development benefits of the local CIP initiative. We want to see what our new accessibility committee does vis-a-vis the county accessibility committee. I think these are all projects that we have on the go and they're moving forward. I don't think this policy needs to be changed. I think those plans need to be further refined, actualized, and implemented. So I think we should support this and then get on to the business of completing and implementing these plans, which could lead to a long discussion about these 6 plans. When are they going to get implemented? But I'm not going to bring that discussion up now. Maybe we could have a discussion at a committee of a whole of just running through what our various plans are. I know some of these are in place and fully functional. Others, like our emergency plan, and others are, outdated, not outdated, but aging, like our accessibility plan, and others are just new. But it'd be nice to know this is happening this year, this is going to happen in the next 2 years, just so things don't slip away from us and we're in the middle of another election.
Very good. Madam CIO, could you just comment on that, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And to Councillor Shea's point, the final closing sentence of this policy is saying that we recognize the need for stakeholder consultation.
Yes.
And from the staff's perspective, that is involved in the creation of the pieces of the asset management plan, not the policy. So that's where I think the community's, this is really our guiding document, is what are those policy or those plans going to look like, is where the community input would be exceptionally valuable.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. Councillor Townsend, any further here?
I don't agree that it actually is at the stage where we would adopt it as is. And I'll tell you why, because the policy or the practices we do is we do turn to the county to look at what they do to see if we can leverage it before we develop our own plan. That's a policy, if you will, to say do that. A procedure of putting in a contingency, you'll decide on the project level, so I don't think that should be here. We clean up what region means, right? If we don't want to do stakeholder ahead of time, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. We'll do it as we do the plans, and if we find there's a policy problem, we'll deal with it as it is. But there are some things I think we really need to look at about whether or not our policy says we look to the region first and decide whether afterwards we're going to do a project even. I'm not trying to say you got to have all the plans in place beforehand. I think that's ludicrous. We'd never do that, and we'd never have done it. And I don't think any other municipality would have done it by July 1st either. But I think we have to have the bare bones of what we're saying as our policy for where we're going to look, how we're going to behave going forward. And so there are those little things in my mind that are missing, but they are small, providing that we identify them all and fix the wording in the actual document, so, before we approve it.
Thank you. Director Mighton, would you be able to change the region word?
Yeah, and I didn't, I can't take credit for creating this. I shared it from, or got it from another municipality. There's different templates on there. So yeah, I missed the region with counties, so I'll switch those two. Yeah.
Further? Councillor Hamilton, please.
Yeah, so I understand that this is an overarching document, a more general document, and I'm satisfied that each individual plan will be, whether it's a regional county plan or on a municipal plan, that there's room for those plans to develop, that we're all passionate about community engagement, and I can see that all those pieces coming together in those details, and that doesn't need to be reflected in this document. So I'm very comfortable with this document as is.
Okay, anything further? I do have a motion before me. Okay, so moved by Councillor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Be resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby approves the Strategic Asset Management Policy as contained in regular agenda report number FTR 06/18/19 by the Director of Finance and Treasurer as amended. We made that change. So any questions? Calling the question, all those in favor? Those opposed? The motion does carry. All right, I believe that is all the items on your report. Director Mighton? Clerk Turner? All right, thank you very much. So we are now on bylaws. Item 13, bylaws, first, second, and third reading. The first bylaw before me is moved by Councillor Shea, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. Be it resolved that bylaw number 43-2019, being a bylaw to rezone plan 813, block 68, geographic township of Glenelg, in brackets, Bassett, Schmidt, Matari, okay, thank you. ZA 0319 be now read a first, second, and third time and passed as amended and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Questions? Clerk Turner, please.
Just for information purposes, this was dealt with at a public meeting during a recent West Grey Committee of the Whole planning meeting. There were some concerns that the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority addressed, and there's subsequent discussion, interaction with the authority and the property owners, and as a result, they have agreed that the solution would be the schedule to the bylaw has been amended to establish kind of a building envelope or area for the potential buildings. So the Conservation Authority is supportive of this bylaw as presented.
Thank you. Further, members of council? All right. Calling the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? It carries. Thank you. The next bylaw, proposed bylaw is number 44-2019, moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Hutchinson. Be it resolved that bylaw number 44-2019, being a bylaw to enter into a quadripartite, same, tiered emergency response agreement between the County of Grey, Municipality of Brockton, and Municipality of West Grey, and Elmwood Fire Joint Board of Management, in brackets, repeals bylaw number 16-2018, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Questions, and I'm not going to say that word again. Councillor Herger.
Yes, so in this four-party agreement,
Thank you.
I was noting that Bruce County is not part of this, so I reached out to Mike Murphy to say, do we need to have a five-party agreement?
Yes.
Anyway, he said no, there is a response agreement in place with Bruce County already, and this is just an annual version of an agreement that we need to sign just to have coverage for paramedic service.
Good. I appreciate that you extended yourself that way. Thank you very much. Anything further? Calling the question? Oh, Councillor Shea.
I don't really, I read the whole thing and I don't really understand the gist of this. I thought maybe the fire chief or somebody was going to be here, or, like, it's talking about how Elmwood Fire is going to serve West Grey, but there's no talk about it serving Brockton, or, like, why does it only work in one direction? Or, and, yeah.
Okay.
And why is it driven by the county? Like, don't we just have a private agreement between West Grey and Brockton around fire? And they're dispatched by London, but at another emergency services meeting I went to, there was questions about the interoperability of London dispatch with West Grey dispatch. So I just had to
Okay.
I'll support it, but
No,
I
and
don't.
we always welcome questions, so there's absolutely no issue with that. I'm looking either at our CAO or our Director of Finance and Treasurer that could provide some questions. If not, that is fine, and then we could get those, those questions that if we can't get answered through our fire chief. For sure. Is there any response at the table right now? Okay, I'm going to go to Councillor Herger, please.
Sure. So this is actually, let's see the page here. It's actually an agreement for paramedic services for Grey County, and that when the fire, like Elmwood Fire would be dispatched, that the fire trucks could go, but also ambulance for Grey County would respond. So Bruce County is not part of this agreement because Bruce County Ambulance would be doing their own thing in Bruce County. So this is for paramedic response from Grey County in Grey County Elmwood service coverage area.
Okay.
And I did take this up with Fire Chief Phil as well, just because I wanted to get a wholesome answer, but this is not something he's brought to the table. This is not coming as a recommendation from Fire Chief Phil, right? This is a separate agreement with our Elmwood Fire Department.
Okay. Oh, so generated through Elmwood Fire Department.
Yes, and
Okay.
we did take it up at our last meeting as well.
Okay.
Good.
Councillor Shea,
You
is that
satisfied?
good for now?
That's fairly satisfying, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, anything further? Well, I have read the motion. I'm calling the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? It does carry. Okay, the next proposed bylaw is number 45-2019, moved by Councillor Hergert, seconded by Councillor Townsend. Be it resolved that bylaw number 45-2019, being a bylaw to enter into a Children's Services Evergreen Master Service Agreement between the Municipality of West Grey and the County of Grey, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Questions? Calling the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? It does carry. Thank you. Okay, that's 26. Okay, the next proposed bylaw moved by Councillor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Be it resolved that bylaw number 46-2019 being a bylaw to amend Schedule I to bylaw number 60-2017 regarding recreation fees and charges, and to repeal bylaw number 38-2019 be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Clerk Turner, why is this before us?
So yes, this bylaw may look familiar. It was passed at the last council meeting on June 4th. After being passed, it was noted the effective date was indicated from October 1st of 2019 to September 30th of 2019. It should have read September 30th, 2020. That's the only change to this bylaw.
Okay, thank you for catching that. Questions, members of council? Councillor Hutchinson.
I had one question, and I'm not sure if we can get the answer for this, but I just wondered, do we have any stats on subsidies that our applied for in West Gray.
Madam CAO?
Thank you for the question, Councillor. Just for clarification, subsidies applied for from our users, our patrons?
Yes, this is for the recreation, it's a recreation subsidy, right? For West Gray summer camps. I don't know if it involves anything else. Looks like it's basically summer camp.
Yeah, and my understanding through you, Madam Mayor, is that those subsidies are not administered by West Gray, so we wouldn't have that information.
Okay. All right. Further? Councillor Herger?
If a subsidy was paid by somebody else, wouldn't we know the revenue coming in every year from a third party on a recreation event?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I would need to check that. There's an element of confidentiality, and I'm not quite sure how far that reaches. So
Right.
I'm happy to get back to council on how that works.
And to that point of confidentiality, maybe, like, we don't need any names, just a number, and that way we could also target it to ramp up recreation programming and so on for next year.
Okay, great. Further? Calling the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. One further bylaw. Proposed bylaw, moved by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Shea. Be it resolved that bylaw number 47-2019, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the June 18, 2019 council meeting, be now read a first, second, and third time and passed and numbered, and that said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Questions? Calling the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? It does carry. All right, that takes care of the number of bylaws that we've had on. Item 14, new business. Is there any at this stage? Councillor Herger.
Because of the 20th anniversary that you've recently attended for Moloch, I was hoping that we could invite them to come delegate council as we plan for a 3-year or multi-year budget cycle. I'd like to have some of these options earlier on that we could sort through. We definitely have a waste issue that we need to address, and I think it would be prudent that we ask them to come. Being a West Gray business, celebrating 20 years, as North American headquarters right here in West Gray, I think it would be good to hear their solution and see if it was a possibility for this council.
Yeah, we are in discussions with Moloch, North America at this point, very favorable discussions, and we will be bringing the discussion further to council at a later time. And I absolutely echo what you're saying in terms of they're a significant company within West Gray, and their celebration of 20 years is very significant. Stay tuned, members of council. We will be bringing something forward. It's most important. We're working with our Chief Administrative Officer on that as well. Okay, perfect. Anything further on new business? All right. Item 15, addendum. All right. Moving to item 16, notice of motion or direct motions. All right. Now that takes us to item 17, closed session, incomplete items only. That is an NA. Item 18, matters arising from closed session, incomplete items only, NA as well. Item 19, question period. Two members of council, two members of the audience sitting at this council meeting, questions. Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question, the concern is this here, accounting for the capital assets and all this good stuff. It seems as though this whole thing just goes on and on and on, and
Yeah.
there's a cost involved with everything. What's going to happen at the end of 5 years or whenever? There's less money available and no new bridges.
Well, we're working on our plan for our bridges and certainly sustainability for all of our infrastructure. So the asset management plan is an obligation that we have to do. It's a compliance requirement. obviously always want to be in compliance, but we absolutely have an eye on our infrastructure in terms of how we're going to manage that. We have a lot of infrastructure, we've inherited the infrastructure, and we're going to do our very best to support our West Grey citizens. And I'm glad you're here asking the questions almost every council meeting, and it's very important for you to be here.
Well, we know that the bridges keep, in fact, the whole road system has to be looked after, but the bridges keep getting worse, and we never seem to get anything new. So as long as you keep it in mind, don't spend the money on everything else. Thank you.
Well, I agree with you on that, and thank you, and we really appreciate your comments, for sure. Are there any other comments from the audience? All right, well, thank you. Mr. Forrester, then? All right, then, question period has been satisfied. Item 20, Municipal Act notices. Clerk Turner, anything?
There are no municipal act notices, but I will just indicate again that, indicate that the June 25th Committee of the Whole, there is a public meeting for the urban chicken matter, so that's happening June 25th Committee of the Whole meeting at 9:15 a.m. Anyone that wishes to speak to that issue at that time is welcome to do so.
Thank you, appreciate you saying that. Councillor Hutchinson.
Just to further that, when will the results of our survey be compiled? Will it be available at that point or previous to that?
The results are tabulated. Our CEO has done a report. It will be included with the agenda that will go out Thursday, maybe Friday.
Of this week.
Yeah, of this week. So.
Yeah, very good. Okay, further? All right, well, thank you. I'm looking on item 21 for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Herger, Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. All those in favor? Opposed? Were you part of that vote? I'm just checking, Councillor Hutchinson. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? It does carry. Thank you. Always want to be inclusive. Thank you. Well done.